rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to today's edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. The FBI are at it again. This broke over the weekend. The FBI has misused surveillance or abused their surveillance powers nearly 300,000 times in the last couple of years. This is absolute nonsense. They used a section of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, known as Section 702, which allows them to look for foreign intelligence or terrorist activity. Foreign intelligence or terrorist activity, yet they're searching for American citizens. We're going to be talking about this and more on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Stay tuned for some quick program messaging, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome to today's podcast. Again, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe to our podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. Or if you prefer Rumble, we're on the free speech platform known as rumble.com, The Carl Jackson Show on Rumble. All things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, True Social Getter. You can find us there. There's several stories that I want to get to you today, but I really want to focus and hone in on the FBI. I am telling you guys the FBI needs to go bye-bye. That is an argument that I will be continuing to make through 2024. I don't believe any candidate that's worth his salt or his or her salt or whatever, if they do not say that the FBI needs to be disbanded, I don't believe they're worth voting for, frankly. I think this FBI, they are thoroughly corrupt. And they need to go bye-bye. And so this is going to be a recurring thing, because I think if you abolish the rule of law, if you have a police state in the United States fails to be the United States. But I want to make sure I'm going to talk about other news as well. Daniel Penny has spoken out for the first time. You can donate to his attorney's fund, GiveSendGo, I believe it is, / Daniel Penny, I believe. In Daniel Penny, those of you may recall, is the Marine subway hero that defended citizens against the sadly crazed Jordan Neely. The left is trying to make a racial issue out of it. You've had Daniel Penny come out and say he isn't a white supremacist. We know he isn't a white supremacist because some of the people that he defended, or he helped to defend, happened to be black. One of the witnesses that remains anonymous, from what I understand, happens to be a black woman that is over 60 years of age. So he was helping to defend her as well as others. Again, as I reported last week, he didn't step in until it was absolutely necessary. And you had Jordan Neely saying that he was going to go to jail for life. Jordan Neely basically saying he would kill a mofo. And all this kind of stuff. What is a man supposed to do? What is any man supposed to do? This is obviously a case of self-defense, and they're trying to persecute Daniel Penny before the 2024 elections. The left has absolutely nothing to run on, so you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be running on racism, and things are going to intensify before the elections. But again, you have Daniel Penny speaking out for the first time, and it's sad that he has to claim what's common sense. But he just says, "Hey, listen, I'm not a white supremacist." He was just there to protect people. I want to make sure that I get this right. Again, Daniel Penny, the Marine veteran, this from Town Hall, unfairly charged by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's office, speaks out for the first time after putting a homeless man in a fatal chokehold, allegedly. Penny said that the incident which killed Jordan Neely had nothing to do with race, but everything to do with a broken system, quote, that so desperately failed us, close quote. He goes on to say this had nothing to do with race, quote unquote. Penny said, "I judge a person based on their character. I'm not a white supremacist, quote unquote." So anyway, this was a guy, a Marine that served his country, and they want to throw him under the bus. It is a sad state of affairs. But anyway, that's in the news today. Another thing that's in the news today, you guys, did you guys hear about this? Did you guys hear about this? Trip off of this story. I first saw this at Daily Wire. All right, so I went to see Governor Ron DeSantis, at an event held by the Florida Family Policy Council right here in Central Florida. Central Florida, and it was a great event. I got to be frank with you. I understand why Donald Trump is concerned about, or he isn't taking Governor DeSantis lightly. I will tell you this about him, what I witnessed, and this coming from a guy where I think Trump is the man for 2024, but I'm not mad at like some people are, at DeSantis running. He wasn't what I expected, and I mean that in a good way. He is very matter of fact. I can see why people would say he doesn't have the charisma that Trump has, but I could tell you that he is a man of conviction. There's a lot of people, going around, hey, he's this way and that way. He is a guy that I got the sense he knows what he believes. He knows what he's fighting for. He believes he's doing the right thing, and it doesn't matter who says what. He wants to fight and do the right thing. The sense that I got is that he is very focused. He is a man of conviction, and he will not be deterred. I gotta tell you, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that's not necessarily what I expected to see. When Governor DeSantis ran in Florida the first time as governor, I thought he was a horrible candidate. Frankly, I was just, Trump had endorsed him at the time, but I didn't vote for him based upon Trump's endorsement. I frankly voted for the other guy in the primary. I voted for DeSantis in the general election, of course, because I wanted to defeat the Democrats. But I can tell you, as a governor and as somebody that's in the fight for freedom, the guy is no joke. So I understand why Trump would be trying his best to destroy him and try to hinder him from getting into the race. He's set to announce, from what I understand, this Thursday. So it's going to be a battle royale. Senator Tim Scott has announced Senator John Thune has announced him. Here's the way that I see it. Everybody else is just running for vice president. I still believe, at least for now, the race is between Trump and DeSantis, even though Trump has a huge lead. Those are national polls. They are fun to mess around with. Trump isn't going to be beating anyone in the primary by 40 points. No one is going to be beating anyone in the primary by 40 points. They're going to have to win the states individually: Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and then ultimately grab the delegates. But it is fun to speculate, but right now it's early on. Obviously, Trump is the odds-on favorite because the guy walks into the race with a 30-point lead. I'm sorry, 30% of the base at least. That's just hard to beat. So the only way somebody can beat Trump in a primary is if it's them and Trump. Again, you got Senator Tim Scott. I think he's running for vice president, but who knows? People may like this guy. I think what could happen. I mentioned this to my buddy Christopher Hart at American Adversaries the other day. I think that what could happen is that ultimately the fight between DeSantis and Trump could get so nasty that both of them are forced to become a pair, simply because they could splinter the vote. Again, no one's going to be winning the primary by 40 points, guys. I'm sorry. It's fun to talk about national polls all day long, but I'd like to see the numbers. I'd like to see the specific questions. No one is moving. No one is winning a primary by 40 points. It is simply not happening unless that person goes uncontested. But it is a smart tactic, I will say this, by the Trump campaign, because they fight and they fight hard. But the goal, in my opinion, is to give the sense of inevitability to the Trump campaign. And listen, that's not a bad thing. That's just politics. You play to win. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. So that's something else that's in the news. All right, now this is a story. Actually, this is what I meant to get to. This travel. This is why I initially spoke about DeSantis, because there's a travel advisory that's out there. And I got to talk about the debt ceiling. I won't go into that long. I'm actually going to have some guests to get into some great detail and specificity on that later on in the week. But I do want to say this, guys. Listen, not Donald Trump. Joe Biden is a puppet for the left. We know it. These guys don't want to cut any spending. He's being controlled by the left. It appears as though the negotiations for the debt ceiling are going wayward. They want to play money. They want to play funny with your money. Guys, please invest in something that's tangible, something that you can see, something that you can you can taste, something that you can hold. You want tangible assets. So listen, former President Trump recently issued a warning for Mar-a-Lago, and here's what he had to say. He said, our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. Some experts believe there are serious threats to the future of the U.S. dollar because of inflation, deficit spending, and our increasing national debt. One asset that has withstood famine, wars, and economic upheaval dating back to the biblical times is gold, and you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k, maybe from your previous employer, into an IRA that's in gold. And the best part is you don't have to pay a penny out of your own pocket. All you have to do is text my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898 and claim your free info kit on gold today. Think about it. This March, when the banks faltered, the stock market faltered as well, but gold surged. Birch Gold can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. Text my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898. Again, text Carl to 989898 and get your free info kit on gold from Birch Gold Group. Okay, so let me get back. This story is just really funny. The NAACP leader is telling Black Americans that Florida isn't safe for them. Guess where this fool lives? Guess where this fool lives? He lives in the same place that I do. He happens to live in Florida. Listen to me, Black people. If you want freedom, if you want to be able to exist where people really don't care about your color, your neighbors, here's the thing that I love about Florida. Gabe, you should make sure that you get this down on a short, for real. Here's what I love about Florida. Nobody cares about race out here, hardly. I mean, obviously, you're always going to run into some racist punk or whatever, but that's absolutely anywhere. But if you move to Florida, you know what your neighbors are going to look like? You're going to have Black neighbors. You're going to have Puerto Rican neighbors. You're going to have white neighbors. You know what I mean? Florida is so diverse. People don't think about race. You know, racial riots didn't break out here in 2020. And in part, I think that's because Governor DeSantis cracked down and said, hey, we're not rioting here. But it's also because people don't understand the true diversity that exists here. And I'm not talking about woke diversity. People just happen to be, whether it's in thought, whether it's in skin color, people are neighbors of all different colors. I mean, I've got Indians, literally Indians to the left of me, some Indians to the right of me. I got some whites living right next door and across the street from me. I got some Blacks living down the street from me. I happen to be Black. Like, you people don't understand the way that life is in Florida. It is great. Black people love living here. Latinos love living here. Everybody loves living here. They love the weather. They love the people. This stuff isn't going to fly. So you had an NAACP leader that is telling Black people not to move to Florida, that it's a dangerous place. And I'm paraphrasing, for Blacks and people on the left. The problem is that fool is a resident of Florida. Oh my God. He lives in Florida. That's right, hat tip. Daily Wire, the NAACP Board of Directors issued a statement on Saturday warning Black Americans that the state of Florida was not a safe place for them and included an official quote unquote travel advisory calling the state openly hostile. But the board's chairman, a guy by the name of Leon Russell, happens to live in Florida. So I guess he's going to be packing his bags. For some reason, I highly doubt that. The statement released on Saturday accused Governor Ron DeSantis of making, quote, aggressive attempts to erase Black history and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Florida schools, close quote. It comes in response to Governor Ron DeSantis' aggressive attempts to erase Black history, this according to the NAACP, and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion in programs in Florida schools. Okay, so that isn't what Governor DeSantis is doing at all. Again, I was able to attend an event held by the Florida Family Policy Council, the President John Stenberger, with DeSantis on Saturday evening. Guys, this is just complete and utter nonsense. What Governor Ron DeSantis was doing, to just reiterate here, is we don't want CRT, critical race theory. We don't want DEI in our schools because we don't want young children, young impressionable children, little babies thinking if they're white, they're automatically oppressors. No, they're God's children, all right? And if they're black, they're automatically oppressed. So there's nothing that they can do, no achievements that they can that they could make or have or gain to change their status. They would always be oppressed. How sick and twisted is that? These people are simply, here's what it is. When it comes to the NAACP and all of these race hustlers, first off, they need prayer. These are sinful, evil, despicable people. And so they need prayer. But the problem is, America, things were getting too good in America, and their jobs were becoming obsolete as a result of it. If they're not needed, if everybody is getting along, then this race industry just collapses. And that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. So in our schools, we don't want whites to be taught that they're automatically oppressors. We don't want blacks to be taught that they're automatically oppressed. What we want people to do is go to school, study, work hard, figure out what you're good at and what you're not, and then go on to excel in a trade or go ahead and go to college. That's what we want. We want STEM. We want the reading, writing, arithmetics. We want science. We want math. We want art. We want real history. We don't want this fake 1619 crap taught here. That BS stuff. We don't want that stuff taught here. It's as simple as that. So, but this guy is a hypocrite because he's not. I guarantee you, he's not moving. What's his name again? Leon Russell or whatever. He's not going to be moving from Florida. That isn't going to happen. The guy lives in Florida and is telling black people not to come to Florida. And if he were actually prosecuted, would he even be speaking out? Of course he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't. But he issues a travel advisory to other black people. And also, what these people wanted to do when it came to black history, these leftists, these radical, these communists, what they wanted to do when it came to black history is they wanted also to teach blacks about queer theory, black queer theory. They wanted that in our schools. So they want to sexualize our children. They want to sexualize races, and they want to make people hate each other based upon the skin color. No, thank you. That is evil. That is sinful. That is despicable. And that stuff is only promulgated by evil people. It has no place in our schools and amongst our children. And if you believe in CRT, DEI, if you believe in the mutilation of children, you better repent fast before you end up dying and go straight to hell with gasoline draws on. Okay, now let me move on to this subject because this is the subject that I wanted to speak about. And tomorrow we'll be getting into the debt ceiling debacle and all of this kind of stuff. I do want to give you just a quick little synopsis on what's happening with the debt ceiling story because it's fascinating. But before I do want to talk to you about MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell has built a fabulous company in MyPillow, American-made products, American manufacturing, providing American jobs. All you have to do is go to MyPillow.com and take advantage of deals up to 66% off. But here's the latest deal I think you're going to love. You guys, listen, if you have a MyPillow, the original MyPillow like I do, you know that it is the best pillow out there. Well, Mike Lindell has come out with a new MyPillow, the new MyPillow 2.0, which has the same patented adjustable feel as the original MyPillow, but now it has a temperature regulating thread on the new MyPillow 2.0 that makes the pillow softer, smoother, and cooler. The newest technology is 100% made in the US of A, and it's going to help you to get a better night's sleep. But on top of all of that good news, here's more good news. If you use my name, Carl, all right, go to MyPillow.com, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, in the promo code, you will get buy one, get one free offer exclusively to my listeners. Buy one, get one free. MyPillow.com, use the promo code Carl. All of these products come with a 10-year warranty, a 60-day money-back guarantee. You cannot beat that with a bat. If you prefer to call, you can do that. 800-858-0263 is the number. 800-858-0263 is the number. Okay, now, let me just make mention of this real quickly. All right, so Kevin McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, says the White House cannot find any superfluous spending. All right, so Biden just wants to spend a buttload of your money, guys. With the current state of debt that we're in, we're over $31 trillion in debt. That means all of us, owe $94,000 worth of debt that we don't see, because the government keeps borrowing and or printing and spending our money, and they want to borrow and spend even more instead of going back to the 2022 spending levels, which was just a year ago, last year. Instead of going or sustaining at that level where all of our debts would be paid, basically, no, the federal government wants to spend more. Now, what Speaker McCarthy was doing was offering to raise the debt ceiling $1.5 trillion. But they wanted some cuts, which is only right that you and I receive some cuts, since the government is spending our money and spending away our children's future. But no, they don't want that. So Speaker McCarthy, he got a little nasty this time. I'm glad to see it. Before departing for Hiroshima, Biden told reporters that he was, quote, hoping Speaker McCarthy is just waiting to negotiate with me, close quote. This several months, the Republicans have had a plan. Biden has refused to do anything. Biden suggested that he would invoke the 14th Amendment wrongfully. The 14th Amendment has to do with freed slaves, guys. I mean, this is, I mean, no, I'm sorry. Now, I spoke about this last week. I'm having a brain fog moment here right now, but good Lord, citizenship, birthright citizenship is what it deals with ultimately. But anyway, so Biden is considering using the 14th Amendment, which has nothing to do with the debt, doesn't give him any types of powers whatsoever. It happens to use the word insurrection in that amendment, so maybe that's what they're going for, another J6 thing. I don't know. However, experts warned this would not hold up in court. Of course it wouldn't. McCarthy lashed out at Biden, saying that he was nothing but a puppet for Democrats who control things behind the scenes. This is important news to get out there. This is what McCarthy needs to be saying. Who's really doing the negotiations? The Republican insisted that the Democrat-controlled White House is moving backwards with negotiations, saying that Washington is sitting on $60 billion in unspent COVID funds despite the pandemic being over. So there's money sitting there that hasn't been spent yet, and Biden wants even more money. That's absolutely insane. All right, so here's the thing that I really wanted to touch on today. So the FBI has misused surveillance powers nearly 300,000 times in the last couple of years. All right, that's right. According to Breitbart, and it broke on other outlets, but I saw it first on Breitbart over the weekend. The FBI misused its digital surveillance powers nearly 300 times between 2020 and 2021, including against J6 protesters. This, according to an unsealed court document. The powers that are authorized by Section 702, as it's called, of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, allows FBI agents to search a database of electronic communications and other information that's meant to look for foreign intelligence or terrorist activity. Okay, Carl, what's wrong with that? They weren't getting permission from the courts. And also another problem is, as we found out last week, since the FBI is completely rogue and even trying to destroy some of the whistleblowers that's saying, man, this agency is so corrupt. The problem is the FBI seems to define terrorists as Republicans and people of faith nowadays. That's who they're targeting, because the FBI is now just an extension, the terrorist arm, if you will, just like the KKK from back in the day. The FBI is the terrorist arm of the Biden administration. I mean, just straight up fear and intimidation. So FBI employees ran 23,132 separate queries of presumed Americans to, quote, to find evidence of possible foreign influence, close quote, although the analysts conducting the searches had, quote, no indications of foreign influence related to the query term used, close quote. It's almost like they're opening up a Russia collusion hoax narrative on another 23,000 plus Americans. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. This seemed to begin during the George Floyd riots of 2020. FBI employees conducted searches during the summer when the violent protests erupted across the nation in George Floyd's name. The FBI in June 2020 searched data for 133 people arrested in connection with, quote, civil unrest and protests between approximately May 30th and June 18th of 2020. And that I would be okay with, because they have a reason to search these people and arrest these people if they were committing violence or promulgating violence across the country. The FBI also conducted 656 queries around the time to vet people as informants. This, according to the filing. So they wanted to vet people. Wow. Unbelievable. 19,000 donors. 19,000 donors to an unnamed congressional candidate were searched. 19,000 donors. So they don't name the congressional candidate, but 19,000 donors were searched. Donors. So donors that donated to a congressman, perhaps the FBI didn't like, were looked into for foreign intelligence or terrorist activity. Donors. So if I give $50 to Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's probably who it was. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But if I give $50 to her, then they start searching my records. This FBI is rogue. Again, the FBI needs to go bye-bye. Nothing to see here. According to the FBI, senior FBI officials claim that to the Washington Post that the problems cited in the opinion have been fixed already. So, hey, no need to worry about us. We've got it all worked out. No, I'm sorry. It shouldn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, or it shouldn't work that way. The FBI needs accountability. And honestly, they just need to be dissolved. They need to be dismantled. There are too many woke people that work inside of the FBI. They hate Trump. They hate Republicans. They hate conservatives. They hate America. They hate people of faith. This is an institution that is rogue and frankly un-American. It is un-American. So it needs to go bye-bye. Here's what some quotes from some senior law enforcement officials at the FBI. Here's what they had to say. We're not trying to hide from this stuff, but this type of non-compliance is unacceptable. Non-compliance? So who? Fool, you comply to us. There was confusion historically about what the query standard was. Really? Maybe start with the courts and get an actual warrant. That might help clear some things up there, FBI officials. Even Democrat Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon criticized the agency. Here's what he had to say. He said there is important secret information about how the government has interpreted Section 702 that Congress and the American people need to see before the law is renewed. So this law basically ends at or expires at the end of the year unless it's renewed by Congress. Ladies and gentlemen of the Jackson jury, if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to get on your phone. I want you to call your congressman or email. That stuff is still effective. Frankly, I know we complain about it not being effective, but from everything that I hear, it's that they still don't get enough calls. They don't get enough emails. So make your voice heard and tell them that this Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act needs to expire this year, or Congress needs to shut it down completely. The FBI should not have the power to surveil people as foreign intelligence or domestic or foreign terrorists for foreign intelligence or terrorist activity without a warrant, without due cause, without evidence. All right, this just shouldn't happen. These agencies are running rogue, and we just found out last week from John Durham that the FBI, in his opinion, doesn't even have the integrity to operate as the FBI anymore. What does this say? I wrote that compliance problems. Okay, this is from. I'm not sure who this is from, but they say here Contreras wrote. Contreras must be the person that was looking into this. So Contreras wrote that, quote, compliance problems with the querying of Section 702 information have proven to be persistent and widespread, close quote. If they are not substantially mitigated by these recent measures, it may become necessary to consider other responses, such as substantially limiting the number of FBI personnel with access to unminimized Section 702 information. No, the answer, Mr. Contreras, sound like a nice guy. I'm assuming that's a guy instead of a gal. But the answer is to eliminate the FBI altogether. We can't sit and wait for people to turn moral or righteous and hope that they get saved and go to church themselves and find Jesus. We can't wait for that moment. We can't have a rogue law enforcement agency that's just the terrorist arm of one of the political parties. That cannot stand inside of the United States. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, rate and review the podcast. Guys, if you're on YouTube already, if you're on Rumble, listen, you're already on there. Find the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please rate and review it. That's going to help us move up the charts. Give us a 5. That way more people will learn about this show. We would certainly appreciate that. And again, you can follow me on all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. Don't forget about our sponsors, Birch Gold Group, also MyPillow.com, fabulous company supporting freedom and liberty across the nation. So please check them out. Check out the specials there when you mention my name. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.